Assalamualaikum and a very good afternoon to Encik Amiruddin Abdul Shakur, Acting CEO of Magic, Mr. Niloy Banerjee, UNDP Resident Representative for Malaysia, Singapore and Brunei, our line of esteemed judges, our first NTIS-UNDP IMM cohort startups and fellow innovators, and our guests tuning in from wherever you are. My name is Muna Ursulina, and as your host this afternoon, it is an honor for me to welcome all of you to the NTIS-UNDP Impact Measurement and Management IMM Programme 2021 Demo Day. The NTIS-UNDP IMM Programme 2021 is a collaboration between NTIS and UNDP to enable the integration of SDGs and impact-driven elements into existing solutions championed by local tech companies to tackle significant national and global environmental and societal challenges. Through this program, selected companies are nurtured to become impactful tech companies that can attract impact investments to leapfrog the nation towards equal and sustainable economic growth. There will be a total of 8 startups from the energy, environment, and smart cities and mobility sectors participating in the demo day. Kick-started on 2nd September 2021, these 8 startups took part in an 8 weeks-long virtual journey of discovery ranging from creating impact all the way to pitching impact using globally recognized impact measurement tools and matrix. To bolster their ideas and its readiness further, these startups are mentored by seasoned entrepreneurs, industry veterans, and even venture capitalists, which enable these innovations to receive early market feedback. And now, today, through it all, 8 of our startups are on standby to pitch their vision and demonstrate what they're made of to you. For those joining in on Facebook Live, please feel free to join in on the interactive fun that we have on our dedicated platform for this demo day, as we will be having a live poll as well as a live Q&A session where you may have the chance to post your questions. So in order to join us, you may click on the link in the description or type in www.sandbox.gov.my/IMM, which will take you to the login page. And there, all you need to do is key in your email and click Access Now, and you're in. And so, to get the show started today, allow me to invite the Acting Chief Executive Officer of Magic, Encik Amiruddin Abdul Shakur, to your screens for his welcome remarks. Ladies and gentlemen, Encik Amiruddin Abdul Shakur.
Mr. Niloy Banerjee, UNDP Resident Representative for Malaysia, Singapore and Brunei Darussalam, our line of esteemed juries, partners and ecosystem players, our first NTIS-UNDP Impact Measurement Management Cohort startups and fellow innovators. Assalamualaikum and good afternoon. Thank you for joining us for our very first NTIS-UNDP Impact Measurement and Management Programme 2021 Demo Day. We truly appreciate your presence today to witness the beginning of the journey of our 10 National Technology and Innovation Sandbox companies on the road to make an impact on the Sustainable Development Goals. I would also like to take this opportunity to thank Mr. Niloy Banerjee and the UNDP for having NTIS to play our part in the UNDP aspiration for sustainable development, inclusion, and most importantly, helping the planet become sustainable through the SDGs initiatives. Ladies and gentlemen, the NTIS has just reached its first year milestone recently. In its first year, the NTIS received in excess of 500 complete applications, with more than 130 receiving supports in terms of funding, regulatory facilitation, technical and go-to-market expertise. In terms of application, more than 50% of the approved projects are designed to serve the medical and healthcare, agriculture and forestry, and energy sectors. This only confirms that many Malaysian companies are at the cusp of something good. And when key enablers, including regulators, corporate investors, and technology companies work together on a single mission, we can move really fast. Here, we welcome the participation of investors and corporations to strengthen the ecosystem by your funding, market access, technical expertise, and more. We currently have the support of 33 Innovation Acceleration Network partners, such as Microsoft, Petronas, UNDP, DHL, and the list is growing. In August, we had our first company that completed all their set milestones and graduated from our program. We are set to see more companies completing their milestones before the end of this year to bring the impact-driven solution to transform our targeted socio-economic sectors. The 8 companies that you are about to witness today have successfully climbed through the qualification rounds into the demo day today. And these companies that are poised to create a significant impact to the energy, environment, smart cities, and mobility sectors, accounting for roughly 20% of our accepted applicants. With the NTIS-UNDP IMM Programme, we are incorporating a very important value into our company's innovation journey from ideas to impact. It's the alignment to the Sustainable Development Goals, specifically to build resilient infrastructure, promoting inclusive and sustainable industrialization, and fostering innovation. Through this program, we are able to equip these companies with the knowledge and skills to target, measure, and manage impact before moving to the next stage of innovation commercialization. Ladies and gentlemen, the commercialization rate has been very low in Malaysia. The Malaysian Science and Technology Information Center shows that it sits anywhere between 10 to 20% at best. In recognizing the pressing need, the government had announced the setup of Malaysia's Technology Commercialization Accelerator, or known as TCA, which is slated to be up and running by 2022. So instead of creating another agency from scratch, Technology Park Malaysia and Magic will converge to drive continuous innovation. Both entities will match technology providers to seekers and investors for greater market access. The TCA will be the one-stop agency with the resources to accelerate the commercialization of innovative ideas and concepts to impact. It will simulate commercialization of demand-driven R&D, increase connections through mutually beneficial partnerships, develop pragmatic and viable innovations to meet industry or societal demands, provide technology incubation as testing facilities to take innovations to market. NTIS will play an integral part under the TCA and open doors to different kinds of impactful ideas and solutions that can contribute to the sustainable development goals. More on this agency will be announced very soon. To our companies pitching today, thank you for your dedication to this program since we started in early September. This is the beginning of a new chapter for you to become impactful tech companies that can attract impact investment to leapfrog the nation towards equal and sustainable economic growth. I wish to also thank our program partners for contributing their time and expertise for selected ventures throughout this program. We hope that this will continue to grow. I wish everyone pitching today the best of luck. Thank you.
Thank you, Encik Amiruddin, and a huge congratulations to the NTIS team for reaching their first year milestone of 500 applications. As Encik Amiruddin mentioned, this indeed confirms that many Malaysian companies are at the cusp of something good. To our 8 startups pitching today, you are all one step closer to something good. And now, ladies and gentlemen, for his opening remarks, it's my honor to introduce the resident representative of UNDP Malaysia, Singapore, and Brunei, Mr. Niloy Banerjee.
Good morning and welcome to the Demo Day for Impact Measurement and Management Program. Mr. Aminuddin Abdul Shukur, UNDP and Magic NTIS partners and colleagues, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. I'm very pleased to welcome you all to this Demo Day, jointly organized by UNDP and the National Technology and Innovation Sandbox, NTIS, that's under Magic. Today's Demo Day is a culmination of a month-and-a-half long learning with our ventures in smart cities, energy, and in the environment sector to chart the course for impact technology in Malaysia. We are very, very excited to listen to your pitches today, hear about your journey and how the SDGs the pathway to the SDGs can come about through technology and technology-driven solutions. This collaboration with NTIS to drive the growth of our local tech startup and innovation ecosystem towards a more SDG and impact-oriented mission is certainly timely, colleagues, because let me sketch out 3 big data points for Malaysia in the areas that you are working on. Malaysia is the world's 12th most biodiverse nation. It's the environment and air and water in Malaysia is absolutely critical to a global ecosystem, but also to the health and well-being of Malaysians themselves. And the news is not so good. The global predictions on from the UNFCCC report, which has been recently released, is that Malaysia is likely, the climate change impact on Malaysia is likely to be on more precipitation, more rain, and more intense and heavy periods of rain rather than more distributed rain, and also intense heat waves, which have an impact on agriculture most of all, but an overall impact on the ecosystem in the country. Cities, I don't need to tell you, Malaysia is 77% urban. So we need smarter cities because we can't afford unsustainable cities going forward. Energy, Malaysia is, by the UN's calculation, is 96% fossil fuel energy. The government has a slightly lower figure, but it's still, energy transformation is absolutely key here. So all three areas that you're pitching today are very important. And in many things, it's well established that we need particularly technology breakthroughs. As you know, we are putting 52 billion metric tons of greenhouse gases into the air every year. And there's no way to reduce it easily without a technological breakthrough for many reasons. Some of our very fundamental manufacturing technologies, manufacturing cement and manufacturing iron and steel, just these 2 products, which are absolutely essential to modern living, buildings, roads, infrastructure, bridges, what have you, are extremely carbon intensive. And they're using the same technologies for the last 50 years. There has been no technological breakthrough in just these 2 manufacturing industries. And so, colleagues, it's now a technological gap that we are facing, where we need more disruption. If someone could find out a less carbon intensive or a carbon neutral way to make steel or make cement, we would already have reaped massive dividends on carbon emissions, colleagues. Because as you know, manufacturing contributes about 27 to 30% of the global greenhouse gases. It's the biggest chunk of global greenhouse gases. So there you are. It's the reason to come to technological breakthroughs is here and now. Likewise, colleagues, let me tell you that as 1 square meter of to produce 1 kilowatt of power. Sorry, let me put it the other way. 1 square meter of space, fossil fuel generates 55,000 kilowatts of energy. Whereas solar would generate only 1 to 3 kilowatts. So there you are. Even to perfect our transition to solar, we need a massive technological breakthrough. So, colleagues, in UNDP, we are looking at technology and the whole digital dividend quite seriously. And we are not only looking at the dividend side of it, we are also quite worried about the inequality side of it. As you know, different populations have different access to digital technology, to digital infrastructure. And we saw it during the COVID pandemic that urban audiences quickly moved to digital platforms for their work, for their play, for their shopping, for their food. but rural and more remote audiences suffered because they did not have the same digital connectivity or infrastructure, or frankly, even the physical space to sit and do classroom work, for example, from your house or home. So look, technology is great. It's a leveler, it's an equalizer, but just the rising digital inequality tells you that we also have to see what trade-offs come with technology. And that is the genesis of our partnership with Magic. We want to build a healthy, thriving ecosystem for impact technology. So we're really looking at you and the pitches that we're going to hear today to look for sustainable innovation in these three areas: environment, energy, and smart cities. In less than 10 days, we are sort of headed to a major climate change conference, the first big one actually after the Paris Climate Treaty, and it's playing out in the backdrop of some very, very dire predictions for the climate, coming out of a number of global authoritative think tanks and publications, not least the UNFCCC publication that I just referred to, which is for the first time established definitively the role of human beings in climate change. It says it's a definitely positive causality. So there's no more room for speculation or room for being laid back and easy about this. So colleagues, we need your help, we need your brains, we need your ideas for climate change, for urbanization, and how we manage cities in a way that they're smart, they're green, and eventually they're sustainable. You heard in the 12th Malaysia Plan release in the Parliament speech, the Prime Minister said that Malaysia will make a very ambitious pitch to weed out particularly the dependence on coal for power generation, but also, the whole transition, as was announced, to net zero, the transition to electric vehicles, etc. So behind all of these, we'll need to sit, behind this big ambition, we'll need to sit very creative technological breakthroughs. UNDP's own work is more at the policy end of the spectrum. We are involved in designing the low carbon cities master plan. We are now doing the whole sort of financing and budgetary process for investment in SDGs and in green growth. We have pioneered the ecological fiscal transfers, which is now kind of a gazetted directive in Malaysian policy and will soon become law. We have worked on another piece of law, the Energy Efficiency and Conservation Act. So as you can see, we work at the policy and legislative level, but of course, we also work right on the ground. So we are not just a think tank kind of an outfit. So we are working closely with the government on climate actions, on ozone depleting substances, on biodiversity, climate change, waste management, etc. But we can't do this alone. So partnerships are clearly key with the general public, with the private sector, and of course with startups and breakthrough initiatives such as the ones you represent. I know you've all come a long way here. The participants today, the ventures have spent about 6 weeks learning about the SDGs and impact measurement, and persevered through a series of pitching sessions and mentoring with industrial partners. The ventures were selected on the basis of your keen interest to align your business aspirations with the SDGs. So thank you for that. And my colleagues tell me that they've come a long way in identifying key growth and impact metrics. and of course, developing a theory of change for a monitoring plan to measure impact. I am personally quite impressed by the solutions that are being featured today. So, solutions for low carbon mobility, for affordable solar energy, the waste in the landfills, and general reduction in the carbon footprint of our citizens. So, UNDP's job is to always look at one SDG as the entry point. In this case, of course, climate change, energy, and cities. But we also look at what actions in the area of one SDG what impact it has on other SDGs. So we will also be looking at what the impact of energy on women is, or the energy transformation, or on health, etc. So this is UNDP's forte. So this is our interest also for being in this. The final point I want to say, colleagues, is that this is it's very urgent now. The time is running out. We are slowly reaching the tipping points on points of no return on a number of global parameters. And as an intelligent species, we need to figure out intelligent solutions, not least of which we have to get from communities like yours. The only cautionary tale in that is, let us not leave anyone behind. Let's try to be as inclusive as we can, because those who fall behind will fall off the map. And we cannot afford large chunks of our population, of our fellow human beings falling off the map. So colleagues, with that, I would wish you a very, very productive day. And I reiterate UNDP's commitment to work with NTIS and other partners on promoting an inclusive ecosystem for impact technology. And then I also commit that we will take it, whatever we learn here, we will take it to the policymakers and make a strong case. Thank you all, and all the best to the ventures who will be pitching later today. Over to you.
Thank you, Mr. Niloy and UNDP, for providing our fellow innovators with the opportunity to support the national aspirations towards a green recovery. Here's to creating more meaningful impacts. Ladies and gentlemen, for the first time ever, the NTIS-UNDP IMM Programme has been conducted virtually in its quest to help startups to nurture and scale their sandbox solutions in contribution to the SDGs, to offer insights into creating pilot models for SDG Sandbox, as well as enhance the publicity of NTIS-UNDP's partnership and achievements. For the past 8 weeks, our startups have focused on measuring and managing impact brought forward through their innovations via various specially curated modules, such as introducing impact, creating impact, measuring and pitching impact, and many more to accelerate the SDGs while achieving bigger impact at a national scale and beyond. One might ask, which SDGs exactly? So follow us and I will walk you through these innovations that are poised to do good. As highlighted by the resident representative of UNDP Malaysia's opening remarks, the solution in this cohort revolve around climate change actions. We have solutions expediting the transition towards affordable and clean energy, SDG 7, such as Soul's Energy and EPC blockchain, while RenewCell is advocating for responsible consumption and production of energy in SDG 12. Moving on, in effort to reduce negative environmental impacts, we receive solutions that are geared towards waste generation reduction, which is an indicator in SDG 12, such as Akar Indah Engineering, Clean, and Green Iklan. Whereas the initiative of lowering greenhouse gas emission is spearheaded by Go Green Protech, aligning themselves with SDG 13, Climate Action. Last but not least, we have Trike, who is contributing towards sustainable cities and communities in SDG 11 through their shared electric micro-mobility solutions. So post-program, these startups commit to collect and report data on outcomes or impact matrix in contribution to SDGs periodically. In fact, 3/4 of them are even determined to explore the possibility of modifying their existing business models to encourage more focus on impact and SDGs. With that in mind, on to the highlight and main event of our session today. We will now witness 8 of our startups putting across their pitches in a culmination of their 8 weeks journey. Each startup will give their all for exactly 3.5 minutes per pitch, followed by 8 minutes of Q&A with our panel of judges. Before we officially begin the pitching session, let me introduce you to our panel of judges here with us today. First up, we have Mr. Artak Melkonyan, the Global Lead for UNDP Impact Venture Accelerators. Hi, Mr. Artak. It's nice to see you. Next up, we have the lovely Ms. Prachi Seth, the Head of Climate Action Platform at AVPN. Hi, Ms. Prachi. It's nice to see you.
Hello.
And finally, we have Dr. Hamim Shahrum, the Deputy Director of Islamic Banking and Takaful Department at Bank Negara Malaysia. Hi, Dr. Hamim.
Hi.
All right. So to the audience tuning in, we invite your questions at the Q&A chat box on our dedicated platform on the bottom right corner of your screen should there be any inquiries you would like to raise to our startups. Your questions may be picked up and answered live here today. Now, without further ado, here we go. Our first startup this afternoon is from the energy sector. As a green energy company charged with technology enthusiasts, sustainability activists, and energy visionaries on a mission to connect people, businesses, and humanitarians to real sustainable energy solutions, technology, and education. Represented by Hakim Al-Basrawi, introducing Souls Energy.
Hi, my name is Hakim. I'm with Souls Energy. We've been around for 7 years, done 700 installs, and have 70 staff. We train and hire orang asli. That's how we got started. And now we install solar, working with the orang asli on homes and residential properties. We are 500 and Petronas investee. And what we want to solve is this. 30% of Malaysia can't go solar because they don't own their own roof. The solution? A microgrid. A microgrid is basically a piece of technology that allows people who don't own their own roof to virtually own the solar on a shared roof. Over the next 15 years, this could contribute to 5% of the nation's renewable energy goals. And because it's such a dense group of people, well, this could very easily change the minds of how these new solar owners build policy, change corporate agendas, and shift the national consumption of renewable energy. We've done quite a lot today. We've been invested in by Petronas, and as a result, we are the sole installer of all Petronas employee homes. A lot of them are apartments and they want to go solar. We work with their subsidiary, Putrajaya Holdings, and we've identified 2 locations where we can do this on. We have the technology and we have partnerships to write white papers about the technology once we launch. These are the 2 sites that we were talking about, Flora Rosa and Aura Residence. And once we launch with Putrajaya Holdings, the goal is to change policy, take the findings, write white papers about them, and change these 2 particular policies so we can liberalize the participation of apartment solar. This is the business model. We make money when we install solar on the roofs, paid for by the developers. We also make money in providing O&M services for the duration of the particular program. We sell energy that is generated to the joint management bodies at 10 to 15% discount. This is why we get them interested to participate, and residents get to participate too, because once the asset is put up, residents can buy into it virtually and own and generate their own renewable energy. That would allow them to reduce their maintenance fees. The impact that we create is over the next 15 years, we will be able to constantly add more solar users into the mix. I think in the first year, we are able to add 60% of our current national total. And this is just the first year. We'll be able to reduce the CO2 generated by for energy. And this is by generating our own energy. Also, I mentioned earlier, we work with Orang Asli. We'll be able to hire 120 of them and pay them better. Our simple ask is this: if you are potentially in these particular spaces and are looking to mentor or advise startups, we have some seats available. We look forward to your participation. Thank you for your attention. My name is Hakim, and this has been Souls Energy.
Thank you, Hakim, for your pitch. We will now be opening up the floor for questions from the judges. Judges, over to you. Would anyone like to get the fire burning? Yes, Mr. Artak, go ahead.
Okay. The solution is for new developments or for retrofitting already existing buildings?
In the short term, it will be focused on brownfield developments, so things that already exist. However, because we work very closely with one developer at the moment, and we have another 7 developers in the pipeline, the ambition is to actually include this as part of the plan for the development. But it's still a work in progress because the finance is something that we're still working on. Because the big concern for developers is this: if I have to increase the price of my development, then it'll be more expensive to sell, and there are considerations attached to this. But nonetheless, we have a lot of positive interest from developers for both these areas. And if we just pay attention to existing brownfield developments, that's 30% of Malaysia right now.
Can I ask a question? I loved your spirit and your presentation skills, so thank you for presenting. I just wanted to know, this is not a very unique proposition. Everybody's working in solar, right? So how are you then addressing the competition and the risk that is, I mean, there are other people who can come in and do exactly the same as what you're doing. So how do you combat that?
I think innately social enterprise is a generative business. So not only do we expect competition, we are changing policy so that there can be more competition, because there is just too much of a market for one company to deal with. The way we see it, once the policy is changed, there are 2 acts that are really important. Currently, they are not very well written for the purpose of this type of business, and that's why there's 0% participation for apartment solar. But we believe that if the acts are changed, which we will spend time and money doing, the 30% can be taken up by so much of the solar installers in Malaysia. This will be a paradigm shift, a blue ocean that everybody should swim in. What is that adage? A rising tide raises all boats. So that's good for us.
I have 2 quick ones. If you want to implement it tomorrow, what are the 3 things that you want? The second one is issue of maintenance. Who will bear the maintenance of this?
That's really exciting because our implementation timeline is in a few months. At the moment, because we work with the developer directly, we don't really need to change the policy in order to do this prototype. And in addition to that, we're working with the NTIS Sandbox so that we have coverage for our first 2 sites. We don't really need very much in the way of the first deployment. We've got the location, we've got the money, we've got the buyers at the moment, so we're ready to go. But what happens in the longer time horizon, I would say between 12 months and perhaps 36 months, the thing that we would really seek is a participation from policymakers in an active way. I'm told when I reach out to the Ministry of Energy as well as the Ministry of Development, Housing Development, a lot of politics has stalled because Parliament is not sitting. So a lot of these changes are taking far longer than they usually would take prior to COVID. Now, I don't know, if I had to wave a magic wand, I would say, hey, if Parliament could get on this really quick, that would be great, number one. And to answer your question about, what was the second question, I'm sorry?
Who will bear the maintenance?
Fantastic. So that's actually part of our delivery. So the maintenance is baked into the cost of the energy that we provide to the joint management body. So as part of this, they pay about 1 or 2% of the cost of energy generated for the purposes of maintenance, and that keeps support going for 21, 25, 30 years time horizons. And in addition to that, when residents choose to own portions of the array, which is they can buy into this array much like a share pool. every time that happens, there's a transactional fee, and a portion of that transactional fee would go into the O&M consideration.
All right, would any of the other judges like to ask any more questions? All right, with that, I will wrap up this session. Thank you so much, Hakim, and congratulations on your pitch. Thank you so much, judges. All right, so our next startup is also from the energy sector. This startup can double the lifespan of a battery using state-of-the-art technology and monitor its performance through an IoT integrated application. Represented by Muhammad Hazni, introducing RenewCell.
Everyone, I'm Hazni, co-founder of RenewCell Malaysia Seram Berhad. I'd like to start with a popular quote from Jeff Bezos. Today, I will do what others won't. Tomorrow, I will be able to do what others can't. It's how RenewCell started. Battery have vastly used in many industries and sectors, but our focus mainly lead-acid battery and nickel-cadmium battery. For the last years, it shows that global lead-acid battery market was valued at $49 billion US. This number will be increasing by the end of 2027, going to be $65 billion US. Where Malaysia itself have imported $50 million US of lead-acid battery yearly for the past 3 years. Battery always become incapacity without notice and end up we left with no out the ocean rather than battery recycling. Where battery recycling actually gives an impact into the health and environmental issues. It shows that 500,000 of people counted that list related to the informal recycling activities. Not just that, in 2018, it shows that production of new battery give an emission of 20 million of carbon. Then this number will be increased by 2030. We're going to hit 182 million ton of carbon emission. Do we have any option for sharing economy or circular economy? Yes, RenewCell, the first company in Malaysia, provide a disruptive innovation to the battery supply chain, where we double the lifespan of the battery using electric pulsation and improve the capacity of the battery, come together with our own IoT solution. This will reduce the capital cost, reduce the waste, and promote battery energy saving to the SME with a lower cost of battery energy. Our customers are ranging from railway operator, KTM for example, metal hand equipment from jungle or forklift operator up to the buggies operator. In 3 years of in the industry, we had recovered 200 units of battery for various industry, total weight of 100 metric ton. We had approximately reduced or avoid 80 metric ton of carbon emission. And the best part, we provide the customer with a total saving of $800,000 of US compared from purchasing a new battery. With SDG 9, Industry Innovation and Infrastructure, and SDG 12, Responsible Consumption and Production, our global impact or target in 2026 in Malaysia, we would like to recover 2,000 units of battery with a 70% cost saving for purchasing a new battery and save 80 metric ton of carbon reduction by having 10 new branch of regeneration facilities in Malaysia and Asia. Let me meet up the team. We are led by our founder, Mr. Anand, has vast experience in logistics as the first angel investor into the company, together with our co-founder, Mr. Siva, have various experience in manufacturing electronics and support by engineer Prabhakaran, have a 20 experience in telcos and battery environment. With the framework, ecosystem, and innovation of technology already in place in RenewCell, we are able to duplicate this business model to other countries, especially Asian countries. Whenever you hear about RenewCell, remember we are able to double your battery life. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Hazni, for your pitch. So we will now be opening up the floor for questions from our judges. Judges, go ahead. Would anyone like to start?
I can ask another question. Just from a scalability perspective, I mean, right now it's local to Malaysia, as I understand. Do you have any plans to kind of grow this in the region? And also, what is the scope? Because there are a lot of organizations that are also looking at alternative battery solutions and so on and so forth. So just wanted to kind of understand your scalability potential.
All right. Thank you, Madam KK. First of all, up to state, yes, currently we are operating in Malaysia, so only Malaysian, but we have involved in lots of accelerators, for example, like Accelerator 2030, where we found out this business model will have a very good connection to other countries, especially Asian, right? So our business model is very simple. We like to set up another branch of regeneration facilities that serve the same things that whatever we serve in Malaysia, but we come up with integrated solutions. So we just not only provide a technology, but we provide the ecosystem, come up from the regeneration with the IoT solution, and then even a backup in terms of technology and knowledge to our partners in other countries.
All right, would the other judges like to ask a question?
I have one question.
Sure.
Based on the used battery, based on your experience, let's say 100 battery, used battery, what kind of percentage that those used battery can be reinvented, been reusable? And then what will you use, or those who can't actually reuse back?
Understand. It's a very good question. Let me clear the things part. So it's actually based on the capacity of the battery, right? So I give an example. If the battery have 100% and drop to 50% or 40%, so with our technology, we are able to increase back up to 70%. Let's say there's 100 battery. Upon 100 of battery, I believe not all that kind of battery be using up to 80%. There's going to be a company we need 90%. There will be a company need 40%. Even the battery have been revived only up to 50%. We can transfer or distribute those energy to others company without recycling those battery at early stage. Basically, out of 100, I think 50% of the battery they have a good capacity or good performance that can be revived or regenerated.
Two questions from my side. First one, what is the major differentiator between your solution and that of competitors? I am sure there are competitors there in the market who also offer such services. Is it in technology? Is it in pricing? So how those issues are addressed? And the second one, whether the technology could be applied for other type of batteries. You know, it might be batteries from UPS or even smaller electronic devices, etc.
Okay, up to date, currently, we're only focusing on two kinds of battery, which is lead acid battery that's used for industrial battery. Even, yeah, it's going to be used not only for the forklift, it's going to be for UPS, telcos, even EV, golf buggy. And then the second battery is going to be nickel cadmium battery, which is vastly used in train and then vastly used in vessels. So in terms of the technology, right? So yeah, currently we only have technology that able to focus only two kinds of battery. But the best part of Renisal, we are the integrated solution, meaning that we adapt a new technology or new innovation that apply in other countries or applied by other researchers. We adapt that, and then we become a ecosystem in a company which will provide not only one part of regeneration, but we provide many type of solution. So we not only focus on reuse, but we only our main business idea model is actually to provide a battery distribution or battery rental to the customer, so that they doesn't have any problem with that. Yes, battery, they leave it to Renisal, we rent to them, everything will be easy to them.
And competition?
Come again, sorry?
The competition question. So
okay, what is asked with others competition? Yeah, it's going to be the technology, because our technology that we adapt currently in Renisal is already in established in 90, on 90th, they're the first company that develops such kind of technology. So they have grant result IP to cover our Asian region currently. Then we are ongoing, have a collaboration with our partnership where we would like to come up with new type of a machine that only focus to revive automotive car. That's going to be a 50-50% on IP. We believe others competition, they doesn't have any design or technology yet to prove that they're able to revive a car or automotive battery.
All right, seeing that we have a little bit of time left for you, we actually have one question from the audience. So this question is from Farizul. Thank you for your question. So the question is, can you explain how blockchain tech is involved in your solution?
Okay, that's a very good question. Yeah, it's best to integrate, right? Because when it comes to the blockchain, it's good to have a proper integration, which we provide a battery. Then you can use the battery as a center to counterpart in terms of carbon emission or carbon selling in between the companies.
All right, thank you very much, Farizul. I hope that answers your question. All right, so I guess that wraps up our Q&A session. Thank you so much for your pitch, and thank you, judges, for your questions. All right, so next up, we have our last startup from the energy sector. This startup aims to empower the general public to invest into energy efficiency as well as renewable energy projects via crowdfunding and investment funds. Represented by Tan Lim Sun Fu, introducing EPC Blockchain.
Hi, my name is Tan from EPC Blockchain. We are creating a platform called Blockchain Energy Saving Consortium, BESC, to enable sustainable energy investment and energy data monetization. Carbon emission is one of the major greenhouse gas contributions. Malaysia has pledged in the Paris Agreement to reduce greenhouse gas emission intensity of GDP by 45% in 2030. With the recent announcement of Tell Malaysia plan, Malaysia also aims to become a carbon neutral country by 2050. However, the challenge are there is still limited sustainable energy investment in the country because difficult in getting green financing from banks. For investors, normally unaware of green project can have higher return due to limited channels. And carbon emission tracking and verifying is capital intensive and tedious process. Our solution is called BESC, which is a private permissioned blockchain platform with Open Green Fund, OGF, which can help the energy project by crowdfund through digital token offering. The platform keeps track of the energy performance data in a transparent, immutable ledger. At the same time, do transaction settlement of the share savings. Finally, convert the energy saving into verified and certified carbon credit for monetization. From our business model, the investor who fund the OGF will get from the interest profit sharing and also entitled to get net profit sharing of the carbon credit sales. We are also generate carbon credit sales from any existing green project which not funded by OGF. Our goal is to mobilize more than $175 million investment in sustainable energy project and helping the project owner by saving more than 225,000 tons of carbon emission by 2025. I will contribute to SDG 7 by 1.3% of the country target of 31% renewable energy installed capacity by 2025. For SDG 13, which contribute the country goal of 1% of the total 45% emission intensity of reduction. So far, we have grant-funded and developed the blockchain platform and launched the consortium with 10 members and onboarding 2 projects, which one of the factory solar rooftop project by SolarWax. We keep track of more than 241,000 kilowatt hours of energy saving and more than 167 metric tons of carbon emission reduction. Currently, we are working with Green Tech Malaysia to pilot the carbon trading platform. This is the end of my pitch. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Tan, for your pitch, and now let's hear it from our judges. Would anyone like to start first? Ms. Prachi, maybe?
So I wanted to know a little bit more about the carbon markets and the linkages that you have here. You said that you had a contract with one of the organizations. Can you just explain a little bit more about that? I'm always very curious about carbon market linkages.
Sorry. Hi. We actually now working in for Malaysia local Malaysia projects, and Malaysia governments have just recently announced that they're going to have this national carbon market to be established soon. So we actually cooperate with one of the government agency, NGTC, to pilot the carbon trading. Because NGTC do issue a local certification for the local projects on how much carbon emission saving. So our platform will help the project owner to get certified, okay, and become turned into as a ready to be traded in the marketplace. So we are just starting because mostly the local project, they don't, even though they save those emission saving, but they not try actually getting as a credit for monetization. This is what the reason our platform to try to help the local project there.
I have one question for this platform. For national, normally there will be one platform for them to do the trading. I wonder how realistic for you to implement this, given that you need to get support from the government, from other related agencies to hire you to have this platform under your company.
In fact, actually, our platform is more on the technology side to support this trading the mechanism. And actually, we not only work with, we can support the government in the compliance market, okay? If, especially like our advantage right now is that we do able to work with the local agency who issue the certificate as a credit, okay? So they become the registry, okay? And they can use our platform to try to issue the certificate as a credit, okay, for trading. We do able to support any international standard, okay, compliance in the voluntary market. So in fact, actually, we can work with any registry, okay, for the certificate issue and trade as a credit to be traded in a different marketplace. Okay. In fact, actually, we do partner joint venture with a company. We're going to set up a voluntary market in the region, so we can do support that those projects that can compliance to the international standard. Then they can trade in the international market.
My question, two questions. One is, have you piloted it already with several participants and, let's say, market maker amongst them? That's one. A second, so I noticed it seems the platform speaks about several things, right? One is energy efficiency, maybe trading with those white certificates, etc. Second is the renewables aspect is there. And when you speak about the carbon trading, who are the target participants of this platform? You know, in terms of the clients, are these like the buildings that are sort of looking at, or developers looking at energy efficiency? Are these renewable energy producers? Are these industrial companies interested in carbon trading and offsets? So can you clarify that, please?
Yeah, actually, we have a form consortium, so-called consortium, that to get the local player, any green project developer or the project owners, building owners, all that they really saving on the energy saving, okay, or either energy efficient project or renewable energy project. So they can come on board, okay, to we help them to collect the data, to measure the data, and get audit by third-party auditors before they can submit for certification, which are working with the local agency MGTC to get verified and issue the certificate. So basically, we can work with any energy player, okay, clean energy player, or even the building owner. For the buyers, actually, we are expecting that those multinational corporates, okay, they're looking for carbon offsetting. They can come into our this trading platform, marketplace, okay, to source for the credit they're looking for. Yeah.
Thank you.
All right. Would there be any final questions from our judges? All right. So seeing that there aren't any more questions, thank you so much, Mr. Tan, and thank you, judges.
Okay, thank you.
All right. So next up, we have our first startup from the environment sector. This startup is a smart AI-driven reverse vending ecosystem that incentivizes people to recycle, represented by Dr. Nick Bowden, introducing Clean.
Hi, I'm Dr. Nick from Clean. I'm the CEO and founder, and this is an AI-driven container recovery technology and recycling ecosystem that we've developed. So a reverse vending machine, you'll be familiar with a vending machine where you put money in and you get a bottle of Coke or a can of Coke, a bottle of water out. A reverse vending machine is something different where you put in your empty container, and through our AI technology that we've developed, we're able to recognize both the type and brand of container, and we give recyclers 10 points for every container that they recycle. They then use our Clean app to be able to turn those points that they've generated through recycling into value. The way that we generate income and make this financially sustainable is through the out-of-home digital advertising that you can see on the side of the machines and the wrapping that we charge companies for. So companies like big multinationals like Coca-Cola or 100 Plus would come on board our system by either leasing or investing in the machines and getting back their investment through the revenue generated through digital advertising. We have a problem. More than 500 billion PET bottles were produced in 2020, and less than 10% of them were recycled. It's a particularly bad problem in ASEAN, with an only 26% recycling rate. And in Malaysia, only 16% of bottles are collected back for recycling, with most of it going to landfill and eventually leaking into the environment. So this solution that we've built, whereby we get companies to become more sustainable by investing in a network of these machines, is that we then create an opportunity for people to recycle into the machine instead of throwing these containers away. They download and use the app to then swap those points for things like Resort World Genting theme park rides, touch and go credits, and even Lotus food vouchers now. And we have very granular data that we collected every single machine, which is important for our out-of-home advertising component of the business, and also for companies to know how much carbon that they're saving and how many bottles that they're diverting away from the landfill. As such, we're then able to impact onto 2 of the SDGs. We create more of a culture of sustainability and create more sustainable cities and communities. And we've shown that communities love what we do. We've given away 91% of the points that are currently available through our current network of machines. So we've shown that Malaysians love recycling into our machines. We also created a really proven environmental impact by creating a more circular economy and responsible consumption and production. The bottles and cans that we collect are collected by our collection partners and turned back into useful products to close the loop and to prevent these from leaking into the environment. We have an incredible growth trajectory over the next 6 months. We currently have around 13 RVMs with various partners like Resorts World Genting, Lotus and Shell, as well as Majlis Perbandaran Amur and Wanutama. And in the next 6 to 8 months, we'll be launching at least 63 RVMs with Grab to get back other food containers and existing plastic bottles and cans, and an MNC, which we currently cannot announce due to confidentiality, but we're at an incredible starting point of growth in our business. Our future development is to try and get back other plastics by repurposing things like shipping containers in a very similar type of model. And this gets back other plastic household plastics like shampoo bottles, oil bottles, etc. And by launching these 63 machines in the next few months, We'll have over 200 digital advertising locations that are embedded on the machine, which allows us to generate income and to be financially sustainable. We have a very capable team, and it's a small team that is lean and with a manageable burn rate. And we have excellent government recognition through MGTC and the Ministry of Science and Technology. Thank you so much for this opportunity. Come and join the movement with Clean and give to get back. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Nick, for your pitch. And now, judges, the floor is all yours for questions. Would we like to start with Mr. Artak, maybe?
Yes, we have seen many such startups in many other countries, right? And one of the challenges that they are facing is that their scale up stops at one point because primarily the reason being that the incentive that people get to put the bottles into those vending machines are not that high in terms of the rewards. So, usually the way to resolve it is to provide some sort of a rewards which are available exclusively through the system of those machines. Do you have anything like that implanted in your solution? You know, something that would be really exclusively granted only when people come and, you know, put the stuff in the machine, in the vending machine.
Thanks for the question, Artak. We don't particularly have a unique singular kind of reward. We just feel that if we do the opposite, in fact, if we open up as many different opportunities for as many different commercial entities to come on board. For example, we give theme park rides away to kids, so that kind of gets kids recycling. On the other hand, we understand people need to save some money for food. So, for example, with our machine that we've launched at Lotus Penang, you actually get e-vouchers for food, so you get discounts on food. With Shell, we give away bonus link points, so you can actually save fuel, and we really close that loop really well. So we did initially think it would be quite nice to have an exclusive kind of reward, as you suggested, but in fact, to open up to as many as possible, it kind of mirrors almost like the Grab model, where you have many different kitchens using Grab, a very similar type of concept. And since that's been proven well in that space, we feel that we can disrupt this whole recycling ecosystem.
All right. Go ahead, Ms. Prachi.
Dr. Hamim, please go ahead.
Okay. I just want to know who owns those vending machines and who will make sure those vending machines will be useful after a few years back, 3 years or 5 years.
Thanks, Dr. Hamim. I mean, we've explored various business models. Initially, we were selling them as a capex investment with additional kind of costs to maintain it, etc. We've transitioned our business model to move more into a leasing model, where the collection of plastics, the maintenance, the continuous upgrading, you can imagine we have an AI system that is machine learning and improves all the time. All of that is included in that cost. So we essentially own them. And that then means that the upgrade and the upkeep is our responsibility. So you can imagine for a company like Shell, it's not really their core business to run a reverse vending machine. So this makes it a much more attractive opportunity for them. And it also means that for us, you know, our balance sheet can take this a little bit better, and we get more recurring income from a lease model than we do from just a single once-off sale. So yeah, hopefully that answers the question.
All right, and Ms. Prachi, your question?
My question was also on maintenance. You've already answered that. I also wanted to ask you about some of the key partnerships that you're looking at. You know, it's beyond the people who are actually putting and using the machines. You said that, you know, there are companies like Coca-Cola, so how are you kind of partnering, or do you plan to partner with organizations like that to kind of scale up your interventions?
Thanks, Prachi. So Coca-Cola at the beginning of 2018 announced that by 2030, they're going to get back one container for every container that they sell. So one plastic bottle of water back for every plastic bottle of Coke. we feel that we are really, really suited for them because we can give them exact data, granular data about what Coca-Cola product we've collected back, how many, whereabouts, what's the popular one that seems to be recycled a lot more. And we can also help them to make it financially sustainable because they can then go and advertise on there. So what our technology can do is if you go to our machine and you put a bottle of, let's say, Coke Light or Sprite into the machine, it can actually loop an advert on the side and say, you've just saved a bottle of Coke from going into the environment. This is what will happen with that bottle of Coke. So we provide a very unique opportunity to actually also divert some marketing spend into this as well. And it just becomes a very easy and simple to understand concept for a company like Coca-Cola to actually do their bit to get back the bottles that they sell every single year.
I have another follow-up question then. Data, of course, as you know, is an issue. I mean, particularly around plastics. So, I mean, your answer is that, I mean, you can actually leverage the information that you have also and sell that. But is this something specific to again Malaysia, or this is scalable? Are you again collecting any kind of data in the region, or how is the organization based?
So yes, we're in Singapore with the Singapore Environmental Council. We have 2 installations there, and there's part of our scale up is into Singapore. We're also in Indonesia, where we give away micro healthcare insurance. So that program's ongoing, and also very far away in the island of Fiji, where we give away micro healthcare insurance because of diabetes. So there's a really unique use case of healthcare and sustainability. So that's where we are there at the moment. The real key challenge, as you may know, is that many European countries and in Australia, there's actually government legislation whereby when you buy a bottle or a can, there's a deposit attached to it, these so-called container return or container deposit schemes. Singapore is the only country in the region that has announced that they're going to move towards this in 2023. So we're also going to be leveraging on that, and we're quite excited to hear that the Malaysian government might be moving towards this type of approach, whereby that will then also help to subsidize the reward system in the back end. So we've got some method in what we're trying to do, because really the only proven way of getting good data and recovering at least 80% of the containers is through container deposit schemes. Frankly speaking, nothing else works.
All right, so we have one final question from the audience. It is also from Faridzul. Faridzul, you are on a roll today. So the question is, what economic of scale does this technology have to become sustainable?
Well, we've already proven in our first year with, I think we have currently in Malaysia, I think roughly about 16 installations that we already are profitable. What we do need is we probably need a footprint of about 50 of these machines in the Klang Valley. That's for us to further prove the out-of-home advertising model, because you can imagine these machines are in very high footfall locations, shopping centers, petrol stations, public transport locations, etc. And these are very valuable locations for out-of-home advertising and digital advertising. So I would safely say a footprint of 50, it would be the minimum for us to prove the sustainability of the digital advertising model. And we're quite confident that we can do that.
All right, so I think that we have quite a few fans of Clean out there, so you might want to keep your eye out for that. So with that in mind, I would like to end your Q&A. So thank you so much, Dr. Nick, and thank you, judges, as well.
Thank you,
Next up, we have another startup from the environment sector, a startup that uses autonomous robots to collect and manage waste in markets or malls on scheduled time, and dedicated routes by leveraging vision-based mapping. Represented by Muhammad Yuzairin, introducing Akar Indah Engineering.
Hi, I'm Yuzairin from IMB. 15,000 tons of food waste are produced every day in Malaysia. Our nation spends 400 million a year to manage them. Unsegregated waste causes low recycle rate at 30.6%, and high dispose rate at 80% compared to only 5% in certain countries. Disposed food waste to landfill poison our air and groundwater. The main sources are coming from domestic or commercial. Nobody likes this view, but less people concerned about it. It's ugly and it's dirty. Waste management is not a glamour. So we focus on human-centered innovation. This is our solution. We develop autonomous robot bin for commercial, like in fresh market or food court. We also manufacture IoT-assisted electric carts to collect domestic food waste. By this, we make sure that the waste are collected at sources in cleaner environment and less load to humans. This is how our solution works. Our autonomous robot bin and IoT-assisted electric cart only collect food waste at specified time at designated place. And this waste will be composed before it contaminates. So we treat them more as unlimited resources, not as a waste. So until now, we had succeeded to reduce 25% of CO2 emissions by reducing the schedule of waste collection. We double the income for women, increase recycle rate to 50%, and reduce waste to landfill by 50% at applied location. By 2025, we aim to reduce the CO2 emission by 50%, create 1,000 high-value jobs for disabled people and women, increase recycling rate to 80% and reduce landfill rate to 30%. We have the best team to do this. Our clients from big enterprises and government agencies, also municipal authorities, get better solutions with competitive price. Our technical team also have the capability to improve the offering from time to time. Yes, we can do this. Let's bring the best to our world. Thank you.
Thank you, Yuzairim, for your pitch. And judges, the floor is all yours. Ask away. Would anyone like to start?
I'll start.
Go ahead.
I just wanted to ask, is this only applicable to food waste, or can you then use this technology to segregate other types of wastes as well? And the food waste that is processed, are you using it or utilizing it, selling it somewhere else? So is there a...
Okay, thank you. Theoretically, for the first question, yes, we can segregate any type of waste by this solution. But why we focus more on food waste at this current stage is because the food waste cause contamination to other waste. So it's become difficult for other waste to be recycled. That's why contamination cause recycle rate very low and very high rate to landfill. For the second question, sorry, I forgot the second question.
So what are you doing with the waste that you...
Okay. So for time being, we focus on composting the waste to transform it to be fertilizer. So we are collaborating with local nursery to accept our fertilizer used for their plant, and after that, when they sell, we will get around 50% of the profit sharing.
Could you share with us in terms of what are the main challenges you face and how you want or intend to overcome those challenges?
Okay, Actually, the first time we developed this, we only focus on the autonomous robot to collect the waste. But when we did this, we realized that the waste not only came from premises, it also came from domestic. So for domestic, we cannot at the first initial state to use fully autonomous because we need to educate people. That's why we use the IoT assisted electric cart to assist the labor to do the job, but at the same time, because there are human engagement between our operator and the client or people in the resident. So this become more practical. We believe that we cannot transform 100% to autonomous at initial. We need to educate first.
All right, Mr. Artak, would you like to finish with a question?
Yes, I want to sort of clarify the innovation aspect of the solution, robotic beams, etc. Can you sort of elaborate what makes it unique and why it could not be replicated by the others, sort of the competition?
Yes. So for our solution, first of all, we develop this technology totally on our internal capacity, meaning that we develop this by local talent. So in terms of the pricing or the cost side, we are more competitive in prices and also on our services. Then on the technology part, we developed this using the camera mapping that currently is the most practical and cost-effective solution compared to LiDAR. So we developed this and we own the algorithm and also the copyright of our solution. So as we in this area, at least for Malaysia, we don't have any rival in this area. I mean, on the waste management using the autonomous robotic.
Thank you.
All right. Seeing that there aren't any more questions from the floor either, I will now close your Q&A. Thank you so much, Uzairin, and thank you, judges, as well.
Thank you very much, judges. Thank you.
All right, our next startup is the last one from the environment sector. And when they say clean air, they really mean it. This startup neutralizes greenhouse gases and air pollution for cleaner air to breathe in every day. Represented by Tan Bok Chun, introducing Go Green Protech.
Hello everybody from Go Green Protech. Hi, my name is Bok, and our vision is for a greener tomorrow. Our objective, improving indoor air quality. The most common method to improve indoor air quality is by the use of air purifiers. And in air purifier, you get carbon and HEPA filters, ionizers, and ESPs in big buildings or electrostatic precipitators. They are all good, but there are certain drawbacks. They only filter or trap, and it does not treat pollutants. They're very costly, and it creates a lot of secondary pollution, and they're also very toxic, and they consume a lot of energy, and they do not treat carbon dioxide or nitrogen oxide. And where does all this CO2 and other pollutants go? They get released back into the atmosphere. So incidentally, CO2 increases by about 6 times in an air-conditioned room over a period of time. Our solution, protostatic field technology or PSF, it is based on this bonding technology created in-house in Malaysia. We don't use any filters nor any chemicals and creates minimal secondary pollution. And it neutralizes almost all known forms of greenhouse gas and airborne pollutants. It is very energy efficient, can be solar powered, treats particulate matter 2.5 and smaller, and works immediately and simultaneously. It is also scalable. You can build a small one to fit in the car or a big one to fit in the power plant chimney. And in our testing in University of Malaya, we managed to reduce CO2 by 31.25%. And in further testing, actually, we can reduce it up to 99%. So what are our general target market? For the initial target market, we aim to target households for the air purifier market. And for secondary target, we aim to target big buildings, the air conditioning systems where it releases a lot of gases into the atmosphere. And our next target, we aim to target those big emitters, the power plants, the cement factories, which emit about 5 to 8% of CO2 in the world. And we also aim to target, for instance, like livestock, which emit a lot of methane right now, medical, automotive, and safety to clear haze, to clear road tunnels from carbon monoxide. The potential returns, in 2020, the air purifier market was valued at $68 million and expected to grow at 5.1% annually. So we aim to capture about 20% of that market. In 2019, both the manufacturing sector and the government spent about $6 billion to tackle pollution. That's quite a lot of money. So we aim to capture about 10% of that within 5 years. I think that is a very realistic target. And our SDG, there's a few. For instance, like 3.91, we aim to reduce mortality rate due to ambient air pollution, and 9.51, enhance scientific R&D, and 13, take urgent climate action. And our future is number 5, to promote gender equality, number 8, to promote inclusiveness, and sustainable employment for all. Thank you. That's all.
All right. Thank you, Bok, for your pitch. And judges, don't forget to take a good breath of fresh air and begin asking your questions. Go ahead, judges.
Hi, everybody.
All right. Would we like to start with Dr. Hamim, maybe?
Can you convince us this really innovative and creative idea? Because I don't see it just now. Sorry for that.
No problem. We have actually tested it in University of Malaya and using both a Bosch and the correct gas analyzer. So it is actually past proof of concept. And we are open for a live demo actually. So like they say, the taste of the pudding is in the tasting, the proof of the pudding. So we're open for that.
May I ask a question?
Sure.
I always say this, I think, before I ask him. Do you know, like, what happens to the carbon that's purified, and you kind of, are you using it for any kind of industrial applications?
That is something that we are looking at on the later stage, which we can, because what it does basically, it disbonds, for instance, like you get CO2, it separates the C molecule from the O2 molecule. So in effect, actually, it is, if you say in magic terms, it is making CO2 disappear. So at a later stage, we can think about it to actually develop something from the molecules that we separate.
But is it an industrial application more, or it is more like for consumers and homes, etc.? So where do you see the market for that?
We actually aim the home market first, and once it's more established and we've got more funds, we aim to go towards the bigger markets, the power plants, the cement factories. Like I mentioned, cement factories, they emit a lot of CO2.
But in terms of those consumer market, do you want to come up with an end product and sell it to consumers, or you want to sell basically the technology to already existing producers? There are there and quite established ones.
Ideally, we would want to control the market in the sense that from end to end, so that we can actually control the quality and to put out a product that basically we're happy with. So, but in terms of realistically, I think we are actually open to working with established markets. For instance, like those brands which have been selling air filters and all that. So we are quite open actually.
Yeah.
All right. So seeing that there aren't any questions from the audience, I will now close the floor for questions. Thank you so much, Bok, and also thank you, judges, for your questions.
Thank you.
All right, next up, we have our first startup from the smart cities and mobility sector. This startup provides advanced technologies towards sustainable and low-carbon agriculture supply chains, represented by Brian Yeo, introducing Green Iklan.
Hi, my name is Brian. I'm from Nanofarm. Global challenges in food production has become unsustainable due and accelerated by COVID. During this time, we have seen an increase in animal feeds, fertilizers, and energy costs throughout the industry. In these industries, in the industrial challenges of agricultural process waste, they process this waste using biogas methods. However, the biogas methods has spent biogas for disposal, which creates additional challenges in the downstream processes. Our technologies and solutions addresses these challenges by refining the waste and turning it into useful components and creating a circular economy. Our impact and competitive advantages is that our solutions are regenerative, we remove greenhouse gases and carbon removal, and we turn them into cost savings for consumers. The market potential for this is we have 400,000 smallholders, about 1,000 urban farmers, and 100,000 commercial farms in Malaysia that can utilize our services. Now, if we think about that, we want to supply 10% of consumers in this market, it translates into at least 30,000 smallholders. And each smallholder would require these inputs as their input for farming. We work with GLT to provide our proprietary extraction technologies and cost savings to them to mitigate their waste. At the same time, we also have a solution to remove the components and to turn it into the useful materials. Our solutions is accredited and is a certified genuine nanotechnology by NanoVerify and Nano Malaysia. Our team is led by myself, Brian. I previously served as a director of Infusion Materials Laboratories, as a technical director, and Ms. Lee Siu Chin, which is a proprietor of Siu Chin & Co. law firm. She's also the director. And Melvin Aloysius Tamarian, which served as director of Infusion Material Labs before. Our ecosystem is actually very expensive, and what we have highlighted earlier on is a solution in pink, where our nanotechnology solutions actually help biogas operators by turning their waste and excess energy into cash through our processing so that we can turn it into useful materials and downstream processes. This is our smart urban farming kit, which we have built, which is also one of our products that utilizes the nanofertilizers and the products from the upstream process. My name is Brian. I'm from Nanofarm. Do not hesitate to contact me. Thank you.
Thank you, Brian, for your pitch. And judges, thank you for still being with us here. And I would like to now pass the floor on to the judges. You may ask your questions. I think there are some questions brewing there. Would anyone like to start?
Can you tell us where will be the demand will be coming from?
The demand would come from smallholders, urban farms, commercial farms, and even small farmers.
Yeah, because in Malaysia, those small farmers who are actually dealing with through agents most of the time. So how you want to get those demand from those people who are not that into this environmental agenda?
Through cost savings. Because through our process is that we contract farm the small farmers by providing them fertilizers for their inputs.
So what is the innovation here? You know, what particularly is new in that ecosystem that we are offering to the small farmers? Is it technology? Is it physical infrastructure to deliver some of the supplies? You know, so what is unique, and why anyone else cannot replicate it if that is feasible to operate?
Correct, because we own the processes and the production interfaces from the upstream model, and we actually contract from small farmers by way of providing them the inputs, for example, fertilizers and the chemical inputs, which actually account for half the monetary inputs. So from that, we also guarantee the small farmer offtake through our program.
All right, Ms. Prachi, any final questions from you?
Apologies, I couldn't hear him very well. So I'll refrain.
Okay. All right, so thank you so much, Brian, and also judges. Thank you so much for your questions. I will now close your Q&A session, and we'll see you soon. All right, ladies and gentlemen, last but not least, our 8th and final startup of the day, also from the smart cities and mobility sector. This startup provides shared electric mobility networks for cities and universities to provide the best mile by being the cheapest, fastest, and cleanest way to travel short distances. You've seen it, probably also taken a ride on one. Ladies and gentlemen, represented by Timothy Wong, introducing to you Trike.
Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you very much all for your time. My name is Tim Wong, and I'm from Trike, and together with my team, we would like to join the climate change fight by addressing the biggest gorilla in the room, greenhouse gas emissions from passenger vehicles. Every day, we release about 10 million tons of carbon dioxide into the atmosphere from personal vehicles alone, and this accounts for about 50 to 60% of global greenhouse gas emissions every day. Just to put that into perspective, in Malaysia, where we have one of the lowest public transit rates with the highest personal car ownership rates, we spend about 10.8 billion ringgit per year on lost time, lost fuel, and pollution costs. And this represents about 2.5% of our GDP. And while these issues are not new, we always ask ourselves, is there a better way? Since existing solutions are expensive, inefficient, and unsafe. And that's where we come in. Using a combination of mobile technologies, IoT technologies, coupled with a shared pay-per-use business model, we deliver a transportation service that is cheap, convenient, and effective through micro-mobility vehicles. Our mission is to provide the best mile, the cheapest, fastest, and cleanest way to travel short distances. And we deliver our transportation services through two key channels. One, through the B2C route, where we deliver a transportation service directly to the end user through the Trike mobile app. We also work with businesses, city councils, and SMEs and individuals to provide a transportation service of their own in their own municipalities, cities, campuses, and universities through the Trike platform, whereby they will use Trike's technology with their own vehicles to provide the transportation services similar to ours. With that, we see a future where all of our transportation needs can live and breathe within the Trike platform, starting first with our shared electric scooters and bicycles, all the way to automated buses and taxis. If we look at our traction over the past 2 years, we've expanded to 2 regions, including Malaysia, Saudi Arabia, and Qatar. We power 4,000 vehicles on the ground, serve 100,000 users, and have provided 150,000 trips. To date, in 2021 alone, we've generated 1.2 million ringgit in revenues, and we can see a very strong V-shaped recovery post-pandemic. If we take a closer look, we've acquired 16,000 new users in the past 4 weeks alone, and this represents a 160% growth rate over the previous 4 weeks, with a retention rate of at least 35%, where each user takes 1.5 rides per month. This all translates to about 6 to 8 trips per vehicle per day at an average revenue of 21 ringgit per vehicle. When you factor in the landed cost of a vehicle at 4,000 ringgit, we expect to pay back the entire fleet cost within 4 months. By manipulating those variables, we've not only built a strong business, but also have been able to deliver strong impact. To date, we have delivered 1 million kilometers of carbon-free, completely green kilometers of travel distance and have helped to avoid 120,000 kilograms of carbon dioxide emissions into the atmosphere. Our goal is to have or be responsible for a 10% shift in short distance trips in Malaysia from traditional modes of transports into micromobility services such as ours. And this represents about 700,000 trips per day. This will be a significant contribution towards Malaysia's 2050 carbon neutral goal. My name is Timothy Wong, and we hope to see you in the breakout room after. Thank you very much for your time, and goodbye.
Thank you, Timothy, for your pitch. And judges, you know what to do. Besides riding a trike bike or scooter, the floor is all yours for questions.
How you want to address the vandalism?
Oh, Timothy, I think you're muted.
Sorry about that. Thank you very much, everyone, for your time. And thank you very much, Dr. Hamid, for the question. Good question. This is a question that we've been asked since day one. And we've used a combination of technologies and operations to prevent this from happening. So if you look at the existing systems that used to be vandalized, for example, O-Bike, OFO, these guys employed a dockless-based system, which means you can pick up and drop off the vehicle anywhere in the city. We use a docking-based system, which requires users to park at designated spots within the city or university. And so we choose locations like next to a guardhouse, next to an apartment entrance, next to a building entrance, which has a lot of visibility and spotlight on these places. So it already prevents people from trying to be funny with the vehicle. To date, we've seen a total of 3 theft cases, and we've been able to recover all 3. So, I think our system is working so far.
All right.
Tim, I'm required to say this, that you have my son's vote for this innovation. He's 8 years old. So just wanted to let you know that he was excited to see your innovation or whatever.
Awesome.
I have 2 questions. One is that how do you kind of tackle, Grab app is there, right? So, I mean, how do you kind of tackle that competition? If say, for example, Grab comes in, or Gojek or Uber, they have their apps and they kind of partner with some other company, so how do you sort of tackle that competition? And then you just said that you transport these scooters as well to different locations, etc. So how are you transporting them? Is this through a carbon-intensive truck, etc., or is it electric vehicle? What is it? So I just wanted to know that.
Great question. So for your first question, with regards to competition, we get this with a lot of our pitches, but we see this as a big open space. The market is huge, right? If you look into comparison as, for example, automobile, the industry, you have many car brands. So that's one. The market is big. Number 2, we are brand agnostic in the sense that we rely our key selling point is really the platform, not so much the vehicle or the brand of the service. So if you see, we actually work with universities, cities, and campuses for them to deliver their own service to their end user. What we found is that people don't really care about brand. People don't really care about who is delivering the service. They just want something that is cheap, sustainable, and convenient. So it doesn't matter who is delivering the service at the end of the day. And if you look at brands and companies like Grab, I think they prefer to internalize and make sure they capture the market all for themselves. We don't care. We want to empower other businesses and other people to deliver a micromobility service in their own way. And so that's what separates us from that competition. To answer question number 2, today, yes, you are right. We do use diesel-powered vans to move around our vehicles, but we've started to implement rewards-based systems where we actually incentivize people to move the vehicles for us. So, for example, if there's a shortage of vehicles in station B and too many vehicles in station A, we actually try to reward users to move the vehicle from A to B at a cheaper discounted ride per trip. This is actually a system we're in the process of building right now using the data that we have. We have data on things like time of day, location, and we're using all this to build that incentives rewards-based system. We have not yet tested it, but we're confident that once we launch it, it will help to reduce a lot of the movement on the ground by our own vehicles and shift the rebalancing to the users themselves.
All right, very nicely said. Mr. Artak, any questions from you?
Yeah, two questions. In case of micromobility, there are two major concerns. One is the safety issue. How do you cope with that in terms of helmets and etc. And the second one is the more probably regulatory one, it really depends and differs from country to country, from city to city. Which basically road or which lane is used for that devices? Is it the main road? Is it the bicycle lane, or is it the curb where people are just walking? So how those issues are resolved, and is there any differential approach depending on the type of vehicle which is in your platform?
Thank you very much. So to answer the first question, micromobility is still a very new industry, and even the vehicles that come along with it are still in its infancy stage. So if you look at cars when they were first invented, we didn't even have airbags. Frames were solid, everything was made of steel, and if you had into an accident, you would most certainly die. Today, technology is accelerating so quickly that we don't need to wait, the time it took for a car to become safe, for the same to apply to micromobility. Even for us, we're only 2 years old, but we're already in our third generation of vehicles. We used to have scooters that have 8.5-inch wheels, solid state batteries that couldn't be recharged, single side brakes, all these things. Today, we have one of the safest vehicles in the industry because we work with manufacturers and companies out of China to develop these things, right? So for example, our brakes used to be one wheel, now we have two-wheel brakes. They used to be 8.5-inch, now we have 12 inches diameter. So we're taking all of the data that we get, not just from ourselves, and thankfully, there are other players in the world that are feeding these manufacturing companies data on what it means to be a safe micromobility vehicle. And we as the small guys, we get to leverage on their data, which is great, right? So we kind of like accelerate our development process also. So I think where we are today is far from where we were 2 years ago, but there's still a long way to go. And until we get to a point where 100 micromobilities are, I would say, 99% safe. Although even if you take a look at statistics, right, there are actually more accidents on motorbikes every day than micromobility vehicles. So, you can really question the unsafe aspect of it. But even then, we have insurance policies, for example, to cover our riders. And so if something does happen, at least there is the backup plan as a kind of a retroactive, solution. To answer your second question, I believe it was about regulation. Yes. So micromobility vehicles applies to vehicles that are a certain class, right? So it has a certain weight limit, and I think right now it's about 500 kilograms, has a maximum of 1 to 2 at most passengers, is electric powered, and has a certain size dimension to it. So I think as long as we can safely say that there are certain lanes that fit micromobility vehicles within this classification, which is happening now around the world, right? They're designating bicycle lanes and pedestrian paths for micromobility vehicles, but no one really has the best answer yet. Again, the industry is so new. We're all kind of going through this trial and error process. And even for us here in Malaysia, we're working with KPKT, Plan Malaysia to create these regulations and frameworks because it's going to be different for every city. What might work in KL might not be working in London, for example. So for us here in Malaysia, right now we're using bicycle lanes specifically. And that may expand, that maybe we create a new lane specifically for micromobility, but as of now, scooters and bicycles share the same lane. And you can see this implemented in places like Singapore, London as well, although Singapore has banned it altogether. But we're not Singapore. We don't want to be Singapore. Never mind.
I have one more question to ask. Yep. I think the proposal itself in line with KL Climate Action Plan 2050, where they want to have this mobility. But I just wonder, in the country with a hot weather like Malaysia, do you think people will use your services, or do you intend to provide bicycle with roof in the future?
Funny you mentioned that. So if you look at our utilization pattern throughout the day, the highest peaks are actually in the morning, right before it gets hot, so between 8 to 10 p.m., and in the evenings, 5 p.m. and onwards. So we can see this weather pattern having an effect on our utilization. But if you look at places like KL, where it's an urban dense area, right? You have sky-rise buildings everywhere. You don't actually feel the heat. And I would invite you, let me know your email, I'll send you a promo code to go down to KL, ride a trike, and you'll feel for yourself. You don't actually feel the heat. Number one, you have the shade from the buildings. And number two, you have the wind in your face. You know, at 25, 20 kilometers per hour, you don't really feel it. So I've comfortably worn a suit before and traveled around in it, no issues.
Another question can I ask, please?
Yep, go ahead.
It's mandatory to have a license, etc. Is it, to register and ride these bikes?
Not today.
Can be done for school kids as well?
Not today. Currently, with Malaysia, and I think most other countries around the world, there are no license requirements for micromobility.
In Europe, it is. We just went to Germany, and they have this rule, which is why I asked.
Ah, okay. Well, that's new to me, but we don't have that yet here. We're kind of, truth be told, we're kind of operating in a gray space in Malaysia because we don't have any rules. It's the gray area. So what we've done, at least with our regulatory bodies and city councils, we've recommended what we see from abroad and what we think applies best here in Malaysia. So we're using that as a starting point, and then of course we have to adjust it as we go. And hopefully regulation can keep up at the pace at the pace that we're moving at. And hopefully within a year or two, micromobility will be fully recognized, fully functional in all of the cities across Malaysia. Right now, we've been working with cities like Cyberjaya, who have been very supportive in implementing sandboxes for us to collect this data for regulatory purposes.
All right, we actually have a question from the audience. So, Timothy, what is Trike's unique selling point compared to existing competitors that offer the same IoT technology or software such as Beam?
Okay, good question. First of all, I think regionally we don't have that many competition because a lot of the competition actually comes from Europe and the West. And even regionally, our competition doesn't really focus on the Southeast Asia. They've actually looked abroad to Australia, APAC, North Korea, South Korea, Japan, and the others. And so in this region, I think we're a pretty big and important player. And what we have to our advantage is actually strategy and timing. So if you look at strategy perspective, these guys started before the pandemic and they were invested in right before the pandemic started, which means they scaled and purchased assets and vehicles that are by now about 12 months old and have old technology. We, fortunately, had the strategy to focus on profitability from day one. And so we didn't, decide to scale across country or across the region, thankfully, because the pandemic hit. And now coming out of the pandemic, we're seeing a V-shaped recovery. And thankfully, we've had the time and the resources to use vehicles that are new in the market, which means if you compare the models of vehicles, right, between what Beam has and what we have, we are at least 1 to 2 generations ahead. So for the same price, same locations, you get a better experience from a user perspective. That's I think that's the key differentiating factor. Also from a operations perspective, we actually internalize all of our operations, which means we handle everything from A to Z, the rebalancing, the charging, inspection, maintenance. Whereas, as far as I know, players like Beam and even the big ones like Bird and Lime, they actually outsource operations to gig workers, which is a cool concept because then you provide jobs, you provide the gig economy, but at the cost of quality of operations, right? Because you cannot control everything from A to Z when there's other people, that's managing your vehicles for you, which we believe is a very big component to the business being successful because, one missing screw, one loose brake, one loosened handle, could cause a major accident, which would impact the whole industry. So yeah, hope that.
All right, so there's actually one final question, and this question is from myself. So I would like to write on Ms. Prachi's question regarding the license, because speaking from personal experience, I actually like to go running along the lake. So there's a lot of trike riders there. And so how important is it for you to actually implement that people have some sort of license or at least know how to ride a trike bike? Because usually when I'm running, I have to run extra movements and distances to avoid them from my way. So yeah, because I have seen a few accidents happen in front of me. So how important is it that you actually do something or implement the whole license kind of idea before riding a trike bike or scooter?
I think it's always something that we've considered. You know, simple KYC steps like what we have in SoCar and Grab, where, sorry, not Grab, but GoCar, where you would have to actually take a picture with your license, send that to the system, and then be verified that you are licensed to do this. That's something we've always considered. But again, it has to come in tandem with regulation, because even if we enforce it on the application side, there's nothing on the regulation side that would penalize these people from not following the rules.
Right.
So it has to come hand in hand, right? And that's why we're working with KPKT and government officials to try and come up with, you know, what works best for our market. That's one. Number two, you know, the tougher we make it, or the more safe we try to make it for a group or a small subset of users, the more friction it creates for other subsets of users. And so we just have to balance the two. And I think now that the pandemic is over and people are starting to come out in full force, we're really paying attention to our customers and our users, and from a data perspective, right? Like what makes sense. But all the I would say the steps are in place, and if we needed to, we can pull the trigger on things like KYC. But as of now, it's something that is not, I would say, right in front of us at this point. Now it's more about how do we educate users? What is the age limit? You know, the age group in Europe and in Malaysia could be very different, because at 16 in Europe, you're like 6 feet. At 16 in Malaysia, you're like 3 feet. So, yeah. So all this has to come into play.
All right. Thank you so much for your answer. It's nice to hear from you yourself. All right, so if there aren't any more questions from anyone, I would like to now close the Q&A session for you, Timothy. Thank you so much for being here with us today. And thank you, judges. This is the final round of Q&A. Thank you for staying with us. All right, so there we have it, ladies and gentlemen. 8 aspiring and inspiring startups with ideas they believe will help them take on the region and work towards some of the many sustainable development goals of our nation. We also have a live poll on the right side of the screen for those who are on the platform. So please take note that each of you will have a total of 3 votes, meaning you will be able to vote 3 times for a startup of your choice to win the Best Impact Pitch Award. With that being said, please begin casting your votes. Now, while you cast your votes, let's take this opportunity to grab one last look down memory lane at who they are and what they have worked towards the past 8 weeks in this short video.
I just would like to thank everybody, the organizers, Sandbox, UNDP. I hope I don't forget anyone, but you've all been very helpful, and it's been very insightful. Actually, I gained a lot of insights into this program, and it's definitely not wasted time. I've enjoyed it thoroughly, and some of the pointers actually are very, very good. and it's actually needed for the future in order to launch some of these startups. I think it's so helpful if you just take the points down and learn and heed some of the advice, which I did, which I hope I did. So that's about it. I wish you all well, and thank you very much. This is very heartfelt.
And we've really enjoyed our participation in the UNDP IMM program. I think the star of the show was learning about the theory of change. It really changed how we look at what we do. It gave us a framework to rethink what was important and how do we measure impact. We have applied this in many aspects of our business, and we look forward to reporting impact that we generate using the methods and practices that we've learned. We appreciate the MAGIC team and the NTIS team, and of course our trainers from the UNDP. We think that if you have an opportunity to participate, you shouldn't miss that chance, because you will be better off for it.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming Mr. Muhammad Yusni Rahmat bin Yusuf, the Head of International Partnership and Outreach at MAGIC, for his closing remarks.
Mr. Niloy Banerjee, UNDP Resident Representative for Malaysia, Singapore and Brunei Darussalam, and Encik Amiruddin Abdul Shukur, Acting CEO of MAGIC, our line of esteemed juries, partners and ecosystem players, and our first NTIS-UNDP IMM cohort startups and fellow innovators. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and good afternoon. First and foremost, I would like to congratulate all 8 companies presented today who have given us their best, not only for the pitching session today, but for showing their commitment to being part of the Sustainable Development Goals throughout this program started back in September. As mentioned by our acting CEO in his opening speech, this is just the beginning of a new chapter of your journey. So one might ask, what's next after IMM? To answer this, let's revisit the beginning of our collaboration with UNDP. The pandemic, as we know, has intensified the call for a bigger ambition to place technology and innovation at the forefront in solving the nation's greatest challenge. We are firm believers that the journey of achieving the SDGs lies in the accessibility, availability, and affordability of technologies to the mass. Hence, we team up with UNDP for this one-of-a-kind IMM program. In fact, the first in Malaysia to prepare local solutions that are pioneering the movement of making impact on SDGs. Riding the success of this pilot program, NTIS is aiming to accelerate local innovations further for SDG to chart the pathway of rolling out impact technology across the nation together with UNDP. We could not be more excited to share the game-changing initiative we are embarking on soon. To the pilot cohort of Impact Venture to be today, you deserve a huge round of applause for being visionaries and taking ownership to transform your solutions economically, socially, and environmentally sustainable while squaring global challenges. To corporates and investors joining us today, we cordially invite you to get in touch with the teams to discuss any possible opportunities to work with them. And we're highly optimistic about these 8 teams and their founders. As they step out into the next stage, we look forward to seeing what they can build and create. And to all the investors, to all the innovators and the public tuning in today, it is a call to action for you to get into the sandbox. NTIS goal is to accelerate commercialization of local innovations via a sandbox testbed that, beside meeting market needs and national ambitions, they are also addressing sectorial and societal issues. NTIS matchmaking program statements from the government and the corporate with solutions from tech innovators through our extensive ecosystems. Our application is open all year long. You just need to go to sandbox.gov.my. All in all, this is only our first wave. It is not the end, but the beginning of the emergence of the next generation innovators spearheading this impact technology into the sustainability and climate change sphere and beyond. It is no longer an ambition, it's now an action. With that, thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Yusni, and very well said. It is no longer an ambition, it is now action. So for those of you out there, if you are looking for opportunities to work with these teams in making substantial impact together, stick around for the exclusive fireside chat with them happening very shortly. Now let's take a moment to congratulate and celebrate the success and end of the startup's 8 weeks journey of hard work and determination by awarding all 8 startups with a certificate of completion. First up, congratulations to Souls Energy. Congratulations to RenewCell. Congratulations to EPC Blockchain. Congratulations to Clean. Congratulations to Akar Indah Engineering. Congratulations to Go Green Protect. Congratulations to Green Iklan. And finally, congratulations to Trike. Now, the moment that you have all been voting for, it is time to announce the winner for the Best Impact Pitch Award. Ladies and gentlemen, your winner of the Best Impact Pitch Award goes to... Congratulations, Trike! We would now like to invite Timothy back on screen. So Timothy, how are you feeling right now after receiving this award?
Great, I feel great. I was feeling pretty bad yesterday because of some flu and sinuses, but now I feel great.
Awesome, glad we can do that for you. So could you share with us on your plans, maybe post IMM program? How would you translate all of your learnings that you obtained from this program into action moving forward?
Yeah, I think it was really insightful to go through this 8-week process and understand more about what impact really is and how do we even measure it. Because truth be told, before this, we understood that we were a sustainable company, or our goal was towards a more sustainable future, but we didn't really know how to put numbers behind it and how to quantitative and quantify what we were achieving. And so this 8-week process really helped us open our eyes, at least to what are the common standards that are being used around the world and how we can apply them to ourselves. Prakia was a great resource for us, and the documentation that we received was also a great resource for us. I think it's going to take a while for us to actually digest and implement a lot of the things that we learned into our business. But at least now we've taken the first step, which is to better learn and understand what impact is. So thank you very much, Magic team, UNDP team, Pratia as well, for the time that you've taken to guide us through this whole process. And I hope, maybe perhaps a year from now or a year from today, you'll get to see the fruits of your labor, and we get to see it too.
good. So there we have it, ladies and gentlemen. To sum up the hard work of our startups today, 8 aspiring and inspiring startups with ideas they believe will help them make an impact on our society and the world we live in today. I would now like to officially invite every one of you to our fireside chat session with our 8 startups here today. We would like to encourage everyone to join the breakout rooms and exchange contacts with one another to spark further conversations, as well as take the chance to ask questions that may have been left unanswered during the Q&A session. Now, how do you get to the fireside chat? So for those of you who are logged onto the platform, if you have not noticed, there is a banner below with a Zoom link. So once you click on the link on the banner, you will be redirected to Zoom, where you will have access to 8 different breakout rooms. So feel free to choose the breakout rooms based on your preferred sector and start up and chat away. So before we actually call it a day and move on to the fireside chat session, I would like to take this opportunity to thank you all for having me as your host for today. It was a pleasure to meet you all virtually, and thank you too to our attentive and encouraging audience for all the support you have given them here today. On behalf of NTIS and UNDP, this is Muna Ursulina signing off, and stay safe wherever you are and have a great day ahead. Until next time.